Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a totally counterintuitive truth about productivity. If you're like most of us, you've probably been taught that to get more done, you just need to chain yourself to your desk and grind it out for hours on end. But today, we're looking at hard evidence that suggests everything we know about the daily grind might literally be backward.
We're getting these fascinating insights straight from our source material today, Alex Soojung-Kim Pang's fantastic book, Rest. Pang really takes a hammer to modern hustle culture and sets up this massive paradigm shift. As you'll see, we're going to explore the science and history proving that rest isn't just some passive break from work or a physical necessity. It's actually the hidden engine behind your most brilliant creative output.
Okay, so let's start with a provocative question. Does success really demand the grueling, continuous hours we've all been pressured to accept? I mean, in our always-on, open office culture, we've kind of been brainwashed to equate endless hours with dedication, right? We perform busyness because we're terrified that stepping away means falling behind. We genuinely think it's the only way to do great work.
But here's the thing. This obsession with frantic work, it's not a modern invention. Over a century ago, back in 1897, Santiago Ramon y Cajal, literally the founding father of modern neuroscience, warned us about this. He pointed out that frantic overwork just leads to shallow thinking. He saw that the illusion of productivity ends up making brilliant minds, well, sterile. Constant effort doesn't deliver the best results. Actually, scratch that, it actively prevents us from making profound discoveries.
So, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that we have to stop looking at work and rest as polar opposites. They aren't enemies fighting over your time. If you want to perform at your absolute peak, you have to start seeing work and rest as these essential biologically intertwined partners. It's like inhaling and exhaling. You just can't work well without resting well. It's that simple. To put that into perspective, let's look at one of history's absolute greatest minds, Charles Darwin. Now, Darwin worked in highly focused bursts starting right at 8 a.m., but he structured his day with massive amounts of white space. By noon, he was out for a long walk, and by 3 p.m., he was taking an afternoon nap. He used these quiet, seemingly unproductive chunks of time to fuel his monumental theory of evolution. So he wasn't accomplished despite his relaxed routine, he had massive output because of it.
Now, when you examine the lives of history's most productive and creative figures, there is one single number that pops up over and over and over again. And that number is 4. 4 hours represents the absolute upper daily limit of intense, creative work observed in some of the greatest minds across literally every discipline. Just look at this lineup, whether it was Henri Poincaré laying the foundations of chaos theory, Charles Dickens writing timeless literature, or Ingmar Bergman directing massive cinematic masterpieces, they all shared this fierce ambition, but they consistently hit their creative wall at just 4 focused hours a day. The rest of their time, it was spent walking, resting, and just letting their minds wander.
And hey, this isn't just anecdotal historical stuff, it's backed by hard data. Check out this fascinating 1950 study on the work habits of scientists. It revealed this wild M-shaped productivity curve. Scientists working just 10 to 20 hours a week were vastly more productive than their peers grinding out 35 hours. The folks at 35 hours fell into a massive productivity valley, and the ones who bumped their hours all the way up to 50, they only matched the output of the people working way less, mostly just tending to equipment. So more hours simply did not equal better science.
Okay, but this 4-hour cap wasn't just for historic geniuses or 1950s researchers. Fast forward to a famous 1980s study at the Berlin Conservatory. They found this exact same 4-hour cap applied to elite violinists doing intense, deliberate practice. To become world-class? Yeah, they had to push themselves to the absolute limit. But they discovered that limit was strictly, unavoidably biological.
The difference between a pretty good violinist and a truly great one wasn't about grinding out more hours. Not at all. The elites practiced in these intense 80-minute bursts, sure, but their real secret? Deliberate rest. They actually slept an hour more per day by taking afternoon naps, and they were incredibly protective of their leisure time. They made absolutely sure they fully recovered so they could hit that next practice session at 100% capacity.
Now, to understand exactly why this works, we need to take a look inside the brain at something called the default mode network, or DMN. Back in the 90s, neuroscientists discovered that when you stop concentrating on work, your brain doesn't just shut off. Instead, the DMN lights up. It's this powerful background processor that kicks in the very second your conscious mind steps away from a task. Your resting brain isn't powering down at all.
It's basically just as energetic as your working brain. It's like a supercomputer running all these heavy background updates while the screen is asleep.
And this becomes incredibly important when we talk about problem solving. See, convergent thinking is what we use to solve straightforward, logical puzzles, like balancing a spreadsheet. But divergent thinking, that's how we generate totally novel, out-of-the-box ideas. And studies show that engaging in deliberate resting, literally stepping away from intense focus, is exactly the switch you need to flip to boost that divergent thinking.
Which brings us to this amazing insight from psychologist Michael Corballis. He said, "Mind wandering is the secret of creativity. When you let your mind wander while you're doing some mindless task like walking the dog or folding laundry, your brain's default mode network is flying at full speed. It's sifting through memories, exploring new possibilities, and connecting dots without you even consciously realizing it. You're literally doing the work while you're doing the dishes."
This connects directly to the 4 stages of creativity mapped out by psychologist Graham Wallace. After the grueling, often incredibly frustrating hard work of preparation, you inevitably hit a wall where you just cannot force an answer. That's when you have to step away for stage 2, incubation. Letting your mind wander isn't a luxury. It is a scientific requirement to reach stage 3, that sudden rush of clarity during illumination. The classic aha moment. Your brain absolutely has to have that downtime to process things before you can move on to the final stage, verification.
Designing a creative routine. Actionable steps to engineer your day for elite performance.
So how do we apply this? Well, one fascinating strategy is what we can call the 5 a.m. trap. Take Dilbert creator Scott Adams, for example. He uses a strict 5 a.m. routine. Every morning, he eats the exact same protein bar, drinks his coffee, and makes 0 decisions. He essentially puts his physical body on total autopilot to set a trap for his best creative ideas before the rest of the world even wakes up. He stills the outside world so his mind can soar, getting all his hardest work done in a few deeply concentrated hours.
Look, whether you're an early bird or a total night owl, doing creative work during your energy dips actually lowers your inhibitions and frees your brain up to connect novel ideas. The trick is to limit your deepest, hardest work to those 4-hour bursts and actively schedule deliberate mind wandering, like going for a walk or doing light chores. Instead of trying to just fight through that 2:00 p.m. brain fog with another coffee, recognize it for what it is, a biological signal to step away. Protect that downtime fiercely, guys. It is not wasted time. It's incubation time.
We absolutely have to dismantle this myth that endless hours equal value. I mean, we've all heard Malcolm Gladwell's famous rule, right? That it takes 10,000 hours of practice to become world-class at something. But we have been missing half the equation. Those 10,000 hours of deliberate practice mean absolutely nothing if they aren't supported by 12,500 hours of deliberate rest, plus 30,000 hours of sleep. You literally have to reclaim your time to achieve greatness.
So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. When you look at your exhausting 10 or 12-hour day, how much of it is truly deep, productive work? And more importantly, are you brave enough to stop performing busyness and finally embrace rest as your ultimate competitive advantage?